I just had to turn off my coffee pot because it was making too much noise for this little intro into the podcast for the universe. So you are listening, as you know, because you pushed play, and it's the podcast for the universe, Energy is Love podcast. If you haven't already, make sure you go out and share the show with your friends, with your family members, tell a complete stranger where they can find the podcast, where they can listen to the podcast so that we can help the podcast grow and expand and share all of this wonderful information. Go to energyislovepodcast.com. You can find all of our information there, all the links to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere that the show's available. You can go find us on the website. Thank you for listening, folks. We can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate all the support that the podcast gets, and it continues to grow, which is super fun to sit back and enjoy. On our website, we also have a tab up at the top labeled sponsors, conveniently labeled sponsors. If you click on that tab, you will find all of the sponsors of the podcast, such as Above, So Below. As Above, So Below is a super kick-ass little metaphysical shop up in Roy, Utah. They have pretty much anything and everything you could possibly imagine that you may need for your spiritual journey, your growth, your expansion into the realm of all the different topics and things that we discuss on the show. All those kind of things. And it's a really cool shop. And if for some reason you pop in and they don't have what you're looking for, they'll definitely get it for you. You just got to let them know. Go follow them on Facebook. You can find that link on our website. Keep up to date with all the events and classes that they host at As Above, So Below. They have quite a few coming up this month in February. So now would be a good time if you live in the area, if you live up in northern Utah. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're from Utah and you happen to be passing through, make sure you stop by and say hello to As Above, So Below. On this episode of the podcast, I got to sit down with the team from Zen Float Co. Zen Float creates the Zen Float tent. It's an in-home option for floating, and the guys at Zen Float are really, really cool. Not only that, but they're incredibly good at what they do. So if you haven't heard of Zen Float, go check them out at zenfloatco.com. Also, let's see, on this episode we had Shane Stott, Mason Butterfield, and William Carter. So if you remember way back on episode 18 of the podcast, we had Shane on, and I enjoyed chatting with him so much that I wanted to come out and interview all of them. So it was a really good opportunity. It was a lot of fun. We got into so many different topics. We didn't just talk about floating during this episode, although we do talk about floating. But we hit on a bunch of different stuff. I don't even know how to list them all. It was just one of those conversations that just kept going and going, and it was super interesting and entertaining and engaging, and I had a lot of fun with these guys. So go to zenfloatco.com. You can also find out more information about Shane. He's got shanestott.com, or he wrote a book, The Float Tank Cure, thefloattankcure.com. Without further ado, now you get to sit back and relax and enjoy the podcast for the universe with Shane, Mason, and William, and myself. Enjoy, folks. Here we go.
You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is love.
The Energy is the Love podcast.
The Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is Love.
The Energy is Love podcast.
The podcast for the universe.
The Energy is Love podcast.
Okay, guys, here we are. It's the Energy is Love podcast.
Yeah.
with the cast and crew of Zen Float.
Yeah, we got 3 of us, man.
That feels good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the newbie over here, so that feels good. The Zen crew.
2 podcast V cards.
So I'm going to break, it's terrible in podcasts to start off the podcast with, tell me a little bit about yourself, because it's just the worst way. However, to make it simple and easy, we know a little bit about Shane. Shane was on the show back in the day. Mason, you go and just give us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm 26. I work at Zen full time, and I just do the customer service and shipping and everything else.
Live videos.
I'm the talent around here, and I love floating. So
yeah.
Okay, you're up.
So my Tinder profile says, no, that's bad. 39, almost 40 this year. It's kind of a big one for me. My kid turns 18. So I'm dealing with the, oh my God, was I that twisted when I was 17? I guess the repercussions of that. I've been aligned with Shane for, 7 months now?
Yeah.
And this has been kind of a real game changer for me.
It's been a thrill ride, man.
Yeah. Just kind of going into the spiritual aspect, I'm working on a book that I've been working on 25 years, give or take.
How old did you say you were? 40?
Yeah, I'll be 40 this year. I started it when I was 15. And it was kind of all on the same basis of what you were talking a little bit about, realizing that I don't think like everybody else does. And so at a young age, I was pretty okay with what I thought. So I became really fascinated with other people. So I would get their quotes, anything that came to mind. I used to walk into any scenario. If someone was sitting at a coffee shop or a couple was talking at a restaurant, I would go up and I would just interrupt them and blatantly ask them, I find you fascinating. I'd like to hear what's on your mind. I'd have them write it down. And then now, since I've kind of got aligned with Shane, I came up with kind of a grandiose story of this kid's a bartender, super comfortable in his own life, and now he's experiencing life walking in somebody else's shoes. So that's kind of how I've geared my life, as I'm comfortable with who I am. So in essence, I've kind of fallen in love with everybody else. And so at 40, it's kind of all that's coming to a head, which freaks me out. Because it's like, in essence, like all the crap I've talked over all these years is like, oh, so the thousands of conversations I've had, they're all in my head. And I feel like if I don't get them out, I'm just going to pop. It's like I'll have a seizure in the middle of the night. And we all know how I win. So yeah, that's kind of me.
Tell me your name one more time.
It's William.
William. For some reason, I was going to say Spencer.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good
It could be
book.
Spencer.
Should we call him Spencer throughout the podcast?
Spencer.
Yeah, we could.
That's
I'll
cool.
take that.
What's up, Spencer?
That is my middle name, so.
Oh, I'm so bad with names. That'd be awesome.
Not at all.
Let's do Spencer.
I'm terrible with names.
Me too.
There's times like in the middle of the interview and I'm like, shit, I don't remember what the hell their name
Oh,
is.
man. And you meet so many people. How do you keep it all
Yeah.
up there?
Yeah, I'm good with faces, but terrible with names.
Yeah.
So you're just like, tell me, dude. What do you think about this?
Tell me,
Hi, guy.
Spencer.
How you doing,
What's up,
guy?
man?
Yeah.
So because we're at your guys', I guess, what do you guys call this place? I mean, it's obviously your business. It's your
Headquarters.
storefront. Headquarters.
Zen headquarters.
Zen headquarters. Let's get all the floating shit out of the way. Not that it's not good stuff. We all like floating. We're all proponents of floating. But
Yeah.
Shane, I know how you came into floating. I know how you started the tank back in the day in the basement and that whole deal and everything like that,
That
which,
was crazy.
I mean, it blows my mind when you think about that story, that this is where you're at today.
I know, like sheer luck. So much of it seems. It was awesome.
How long has it been again?
Wow. Zen, how old is Zen, Mace? 3?
3 years.
3 years. And then like
14.
2 or 3 before that, probably 5, 6 years.
6 years?
Yeah.
And this is where you're at now?
Yeah, weird.
Yeah.
Weird. And I was just putting up plans for a tank on the web for no good reason, but I thought other people would want them, so
Yeah.
now I have a float tank company. It's weird.
It is weird.
Yeah.
But it's cool. I mean, that's the neat thing. That's the way stuff works sometimes.
It feels like some universe conspiring thing. It's weird.
Mm-hmm. Scoot closer for me if you
Yeah.
would. I always
Wow.
think, because I'll have experiences where, you can look back and you can see all the things that synced up and lined up to lead you to where you're at. And you can see how kick-ass and cool that all was.
Oh,
But in
yeah.
the moment, you're like, there's no, you don't realize it. So I always try to, throughout my day or my week or my, half part of my year or whatever the case may be, look at my life and be like, what kind of shit's going on right now that a year from now I'm going to be like, oh, that's so cool. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
are the
Oh, yeah.
synchronistic things that are really happening daily that are going to build up to big, huge things? But it's always hard.
You can't see it when you're in it.
No, you
it's just
can't.
looking back.
I say that to my kiddo all the time. You're in it. So you've just got your blinders on and there's just no way to take it off. And it's always that philosophy of hindsight's 20/20. Yeah. Yeah, that really leads into like what I was saying. I mean, it's such a big year because I've lived that lifestyle for so long of either helping people work through situations, and now I'm in the position where I'm helping myself, which it's just so shitty to say that I haven't helped myself for so long because that's not the truth. But in essence, it really is. Like my perspective is just being geared to taking away everybody else's bullshit, if you will, putting it on my shoulders because I find it fascinating. And then walking the line of that's what I'm doing now. It's crazy. So that's, I keep going back to the shame. That's kind of exactly how we met. I mean, I was at a restaurant. I was about to head home and I ended up serving his table. So it was just this crazy experience. And now
That was so random.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the day before, someone's like, if you ever meet an excellent waiter or waitress, give him your card. So Will served me. I was like, you're awesome. Here's my card. I don't know why. And then he's helped me through with everything. So
Yeah.
That's what you did before you were waiting tables?
Yeah, I was a restaurant guy for a while. So they brought me in over there to kind of help teach the crew.
We're going to pause because somebody just got at the door.
Find that on
I'm not
Amazon.
cheap, so.
So yeah, they brought me in the restaurant to kind of help their serving staff kind of remember how to serve. In essence, to kind of increase joy in the restaurant. Everybody was really burnt out and just kind of over it, and it felt more like a slave driving job than actually a job. And I mean, it's not the most glorious thing that you can do. It's like a constant attack, and you have to multitask. And
I used to wait tables, man.
Yeah, so
it's
you get
a
it.
hard job.
Really, really hard job. And it takes a lot of passion, Well, to do it well. I think anybody can do it, but to do it well and to be successful. And I wasn't even supposed to be there that day. So I was, I came in it was kismet. And it was like one of those real moments where it's completely in your face. Was supposed to go home early. And then the funny thing was Shane was doing an interview with someone, a client that was going to work for you.
Yeah.
And I thought it was reversed because she was all buttoned up into the nines. And here's Shane with like,
super casual.
He's got a snapback on. I think he's got a flannel on. And the first thing I was like, oh, okay, he's in an interview. I've got to say something funny. And I think I talked you into a beer immediately.
You talked me into 2 beers.
Yeah. And you were like, no, I don't need a drink. And I looked at both of them and I was like, no, you do need a drink right now.
That's funny.
And it was kind of funny the way it flipped. But yeah, he left his card and I came over here about a week later. I think I called him and I was like, okay, this is crazy. Because throughout, I think the career of being in restaurants, I have hundreds of cards. You go home, you tell the girlfriend like, oh, I got another card. Yeah, that's great. You're probably not going to call the guy. But there was something that really stuck with this one. It was like that thorn in the side of like, you just got to do it.
It's called a big tip.
Yeah. Well, and that was it too. Yeah. And that's what I told Megan. I was like, if he tips like shit, obviously I'm not going to call this guy. I mean, that's a pretty good gearing right there.
How can I give you my card and then do a shitty tip?
Yeah. And here's 5%.
Yeah, the tip was the card.
That's right.
So called him. I think it was the next day. It was pretty prompt follow up. And then came down here to Zen, and I'd never heard of floating.
Really?
I mean, it was just something that blew my mind. But I'm a big water guy, so like you get me in any water, like that's where I do my healing and that's where I do my meditating. So like even then it was like, okay, this is kind of crazy aligned, and Shane isn't he's just not your normal corporate CEO, if you will. Like it's just pretty realistic and pretty easy to work with. So it was like, oh, okay, well, I'll put your resume out and we'll see if we'll see. I'm not looking for anything right now. And I was like, oh, well, shit, you gave me your card. I mean, I was really hoping something would come with this. And then he had mentioned that he needed kind of it says assistant, but I'm going to call it a sidekick. I dropped the assistant title.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, throw me in for the running. And then the moment I said that, it was like a light bulb of like, well, shit, I'm doing this now. So it's like all in. And so going back and forth to both jobs, I mean, this company alone has blown my mind just because of the reach and the healing that people, and the stories and the testimonials that we hear. I mean, I guess I didn't expect it to be that dramatic for people. And so it just keeps me going.
Have you floated now?
No, and that sounds so bad. Yeah. Well, I'm looking at the shower that needs to be finished because I was going to float.
We pay for floats too.
Yeah.
He's got to get out to your place.
Yeah, you got to come out and jump in the tank.
If my boss would give me time off, I can probably...
Oh, he throws it back on me.
Wow.
Yeah, I could probably work this in.
Cheap
What
shot.
a pivot.
No, don't talk shit here. You're thinking the same thing.
I've floated before though, so.
Okay, so anyway, move on.
We pay for a float a month for everyone. But we're now, as soon as we have this tank though,
then you guys will be
free
doing
floating.
it.
Yeah. We're just waiting on the shower. It's coming.
Tank's ready to go.
Yeah.
I might be early.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm getting the shower up and done.
No, I'm getting here to work. So.
Yeah. I'll float every day.
Have you, so you've obviously floated Mason at some point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
We made Mason go float a bunch. We're like, go, dude.
That was back when it was just me. I was the only one working. I mean, there was a marketing person, but as far as customer service or anything like that, it was just me at home. Working remote.
We were a virtual company. Mason would answer calls from his college classes.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I would get like a call or a text during class. I had to step out of the classroom.
Oh, that's funny.
Take it and go back. So.
And have you been here with the company since the beginning?
Almost.
Pretty much.
It was maybe a month or two after.
Right after.
So yeah, pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously you guys are happy if you're sticking around.
Yeah, and I mean when I found the job, I wasn't looking. I was a full-time college student, and I had found floating from a certain podcaster.
Which podcast would that be?
Oh man, I don't know.
Some
And so
name.
yeah, I found a video of his, and I was looking into floating, and I tried it. I was really stressing about finals and stuff, and so I tried it for that reason. And then I was just looking for jobs one day, just because I was a full-time college student, so I didn't really need it. And then I found Zen, and I was like, I gotta do this. So it was the only job I applied for, and here we are.
Every single like moment in my life when I go back and look at, because I've had 1,001 different jobs. I used to be the guy that would go work someplace for like 3 months and then walk out and quit because fuck that, I'm done with that shit.
Yeah.
And so I've had so many different jobs, and every job that had some significant or that led to some significant thing in my life, right? Like I had a job way back in the day when I met my first wife and got my kid and all the stuff out of it. That was a big moment, but same thing. I wasn't looking for a job. It was just a happenstance thing where I'm going to pull in somewhere and see that they're hiring and apply and everything like that. And so I think when those moments happen, whether it's a job or whatever the case it is, that's the cool stuff. Like that's the stuff where you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, if we could appreciate those moments for what they are when they're happening, then it makes them all the much better.
Right.
It's like magic.
Yeah.
You
but
think about
is
it
hard.
now, and it's like, yeah, I wish I had appreciated it then, but now looking where we were and where we are now, it's like, wow.
Oh, dude, we didn't.
Wow.
When we were virtual, it didn't feel like bonded quite
Mhm.
right.
Like when I first
when we got
started,
this office,
yeah.
bonding.
When I first started, I met one of the employees who's still with us. We met at a coffee shop for maybe 2 hours,
Yeah,
hour
Jamie?
and a half.
Jamie.
Yep. And she just showed me some of the emails that I'd be getting, and she said, okay, go home and here you go. Let's do this.
Right to the wolves.
Yeah. So it was just game on from then.
Yeah.
So
Oh my god!
Pretend that's not an actual
That's
vibrator,
an
just a
alarm
cell
saying
phone.
eat. I turned my phone to do not disturb, and it says eat.
Oh, okay.
wow.
My bad. I'm like,
See,
that's embarrassing.
Mason's been crucial for me, just because not knowing really anything in the industry, and then just kind of being a lot like you, thrown to the wolves here, and having
Yeah.
to keep up with Shane. He's just taught me just a ton. There's just no way that I can handle, I think, the demand of Zen without Mason around. So, yeah, you've really been kind of the glue. I mean, no offense to you, or
No offense, leader.
It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
offensive.
Floating is one of those things. It's one of those industries that you don't like. You don't know it's cool unless you're in it. There are a lot of people out there that don't really know what it is or understand. But to us, it's like the raddest thing you could be doing right now.
It's a cool industry.
Yeah. So I'm really happy to be doing this.
But I think you're right. Like, there's a lot to learn. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, even if you think about at the base of what floating is and flotation and sensory deprivation, I mean, it's so simple. It's just the most basic of things, right? You've got water and salt, and you're just going to lay back and you're just going to go. It doesn't get any simpler or easier than that. But then, I mean, so many different aspects to look at it from, not just running a business, there's all of those things, but it's a unique business in and of itself, right? You have different challenges when it comes to marketing and all those type of things, and educating your customers and your clients and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, I haven't come across, and granted, I'm not like somebody that's been in the realm of business in any way, shape, or form throughout my life, but even looking at it from, the outside, I don't think there's really many businesses, or business isn't the right word.
Industry?
Yeah. That are like this. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
There's nothing
yeah.
like it.
No, I've been in a lot.
Mhm.
Floating's different.
Yeah.
Floating, usually people are competing, and there's a sense of like, let's not talk about this or this, and let's like compete against each other, and it's dog eat dog a little more, not always, but floating seems to be just damn friendly. I don't know if I can say I've had a bad one yet. Like any customers, float centers, it's like all good.
Yeah.
That's rare
I think that's changing though.
because
Like,
the size.
Yeah,
maybe?
with growth, as the industry grows and more people come into it and more people are looking to capitalize on it.
Yeah, you
I
were
think
mentioning
that's
that.
starting to change.
Yeah, it's almost like, oh yeah, how would you prevent this too? Because it's gonna come.
Bound to happen.
Yeah, I don't think you can prevent it. I think it just comes with growth and the way that industry works, right? You're going to attract people that are in it for money. They're here to,
Part of the people.
yeah.
nature of the beast.
I hope they go to the float conference, because that for me that feels super bonding. Like it, just float center owners everywhere, and it's almost like you're marinating the new ones in what it's like to be in the float industry, you know? So I hope they go.
Well, how does that feel? I mean, being, I guess, ground floor. I mean, you guys are really in the beginning of it. Well, I wouldn't say the beginning. I mean, obviously floating's been around, or the tanks have been around for a long time.
Yeah, a long time.
But you guys have really brought, you've brought a new way, or you've introduced this to people.
I definitely haven't. I'm on the back end of this shit. I just happened, like, I fell in love with floating because I wanted to enhance meditation.
Okay.
And then through the whole experience of, I mean, for me personally, it's been one of those weird kind of journeys of synchronistic things happening that have led me to this point when it comes to,
I love that.
you know, the podcast or my connection with the industry of floating and everything like that. But so I've seen, I mean, it's been less than a year, I guess, that you could say that about a year that I've been in the realm of floating.
Okay.
And I don't know, it's just been educational for me. I just get to sit back and watch and absorb it all. The conference was a huge thing.
Yeah, you just see the growth rate there. I think the first conference I went to, Ashkan had people raise their hand when they heard of floating, and he went through like 80s, 90s, 1000, 10, all the way up to like the year before, and the room didn't even have their hands up. And then he's like 2011, third of the room, 2012, third of the room, and right now, third of the room.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, that's growth rate. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That many people coming on that fast in business, that's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Especially something like, because it's not, I mean, I think people are naive if they're going to get into the realm of floating or opening up their own float center or, you know, manufacturing pods or tanks or whatever the case is. It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh my God. It's
been anything
said
easy.
lightly.
Mm-hmm.
Said lightly.
It's like, I mean, because I talk to people all the time that are opening up float centers. And one of the fun things, so I get to travel and I'll go install dream pods, right? And I show up and I get a look at their business, their layout, what they've done. And undoubtedly I walk into the actual room where they're setting up the tank and I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, oh, these guys have no fucking idea. Because
Really?
you've got 1,000 pounds of salt coming.
Yeah.
And as soon as that salt
No
hits.
clue.
Yeah. So there's been plenty of times where I'm like, you know, well, I get done with everything and I'm like, so this is what I think. I think everything looks really, really good. You guys did a really, really good job. But I would fix that. I would fix this. You know, you need to think about that. And because I don't think people realize.
No, at all. I remember when I first finished my DIY tank, I remember being like, okay, let's find out how much salt to put in this. And it like shocked me. I was like 800 pounds and it was a small tank. You know, a lot of the big ones have 1,000 or more. But it was shocking how much salt can get in that water. And it's just a lot. And it's expensive too.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, it's not table salt.
No, not cheap.
It's barely salt anyway, right? Chemically,
Yeah.
I've heard.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's way down the rabbit hole. Salt. We don't want to go down the salt rabbit hole. That's stupid.
We love
You see
salt.
our salt kitty? That's
Your
funny.
salt kitty
It's the cocaine kitty, actually. Isn't that funny?
diving in. That is funny.
When you came up with that, and for weeks I was laughing about that thing. Wasn't that what you took up to the Float conference? Didn't that go into
Yeah, and I didn't know.
in the grab bags?
I didn't know about the image usage, so we just did like a flyer and called it quits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is funny.
I think it's great.
I'll explain the picture.
Do it.
So-
Well, I was going to say, explain it.
Yeah, I'll
Not
just-
where it comes from or the idea behind it, but
Perfect.
actual
Just the
description.
picture. So
Yeah.
there's a cat. It looks like he just got dropped in like fresh powder. So it's all you see is a cat with powder, and the cat looks a little shocked. And then it says salt, so much salt. But the meme I saw said cocaine, so much cocaine. I was like, let's just switch that.
It's in meme
That's how we got
format.
there.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Memes.
Memes are awesome.
So before we hit record, we were chatting about China.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things I was excited to talk to you guys about. So,
China was crazy.
had you ever been before?
No. And I've been a lot of places. I've been like Australia, UK, Spain, Peru. I mean, all sorts of places. And China was truly shocking. To be able to not read anything and to not use the same letters, or I couldn't look at something and say it, or it was so hard to communicate. Luckily, we stayed in a pretty high tourist spot. So my partner, Will, he moved to China from England about 10 years ago. So thank God, Will's wife translated the whole time we were there, pretty much.
This will?
No.
No.
Different
okay.
Will.
I have 3 Wills in my life. Assistant, partner, and a guy at the other business.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had
Only one Mason, though.
only one
There
Mason.
can only be one.
Right.
No, don't feed the beast over here. Captain Humble.
His head's like,
I'm the god
We're
of
trying to
being
shrink
humble.
his head right now.
Just
Anyway,
not the
go
god of
on.
Nintendo. Sorry, side note.
Go ahead.
Yes, I know. So anyway, we were there for like a week, and I remember when we were leaving, I asked my brother, I was like, we really enjoyed it. Like, it was such an adventure. But I remember being like, would we have enjoyed it this much without a translator? And it was like, probably not. It would have been a battle. So if you don't have a translator, go to a high tourist spot.
Yeah.
And if you do, it's really nice. So, but there's so much on China. I don't know what part interests you most, but it was just neat.
Well, what the hell were you guys doing there?
Good question.
Why are we going to China?
So we have a factory in China. My partner, he moved over there, like I said, 10 years ago to make an indoor grow room.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the same materials that the float tent is now. So him and his wife set up factory over there, and we have a handful of workers, and we went over there to improve the tank. And that was even, working conditions were even way different than I was used to. And the first day we walked in, I'll show you a picture, but our workers were hanging, our workers sound so bad. Anyway.
Our employees.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
own them.
Our
They're
workers.
We want them to be very happy. But
Yeah,
anyway,
the young children that we've enslaved.
yeah, isn't that bad? Oh my God, I feel bad. Anyway, they were awesome. And they were hanging raw fish, raw chicken, raw beef on our key holder so that the cats didn't get them at their home. And it was just, okay, there's something shocking. And then from that shocking to the rest of the trip was just like shock, shock, shock.
So the cats wouldn't get them?
Yeah.
Oh, like steal the keys?
No, for the meat, the raw meat that they hung up. They brought the meat to work. So the cats didn't get the meat at home.
I see. So
Yeah.
they brought their own food. I see what you're saying.
And they just tear off pieces of the dried out raw food and eat it.
Yeah.
All good. And they have the noodles and soups, and you can eat there for, I would guess, 30 cents US maybe.
Wow.
Did you try any
for a bowl
jerky?
of soup maybe? I did not dare. I didn't want to get sick too, so we went through all the travel shots and prep, and
Did you have to get some shots to go?
yeah, they recommended it. We got a few, and one of the big things though is they said take a probiotic just because it's got the same water issues. Like they're used to their water.
Yeah, yeah.
So get some probiotics going. So for 2 weeks I took them while I was there, but no sickness.
That's good.
Yeah, but honestly, most of the places were pretty nice. They have a little different food standards, but it was cool. We didn't get sick. So
Yeah. Well, you find that anywhere, though.
Yeah.
I mean, even when you travel in the
Part of
U.S.,
travel.
sometimes you get
Yeah.
weird shit that you're like, I don't know about that.
I'd rather, yeah,
Sketchy.
seriously.
And Will, you went with him too, right? Do you go by Will or William?
No, I didn't go.
So that was
I'm-
partner Will.
Yeah, partner Will.
He lives there.
See, I'm not making
Yeah.
any sense
There are
now.
too many
There's
wheels.
too many Wills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But me and my brother Sean, we went to visit the other partner, Will,
Cool.
and his wife and kids and everyone. It was cool.
How long were you there for?
A week. I could have stayed longer.
Yeah.
Seriously.
How long of a flight was it?
A long flight. So I think we flew to San Francisco, and I think it was like a 12 or 13 over to Shanghai, and then went a few more hours of driving. But it was a lot of travel.
Yeah.
I got to mention one thing that's kind of stupid, but it's cool. We were on this new plane, and I was by the window. Mason just laughed at me. You could tint the windows on the plane, and so there's no shutters, and you tint it, and then long story short, we took off. It's bright day. They turn down all the windows, and it feels like you're flying in the moonlight. So they get you adjusted to China time.
Right
And the
off
same way on the
bat.
way back. You fly in the night, and all of a sudden you're coming into LA, and you think it's kind of like moonlight. You know it's not. But
Yeah.
it looks like the moonlight, and all of a sudden all the windows turn on, and it's the middle of the day. It was really cool.
That is cool.
I don't know if that was worth throwing in, but it was cool.
I just want to point out
I
that
messed with the window for like an hour. I was like,
the first day he got back in the office, that's the very first thing he told me. Nothing about China, nothing about how it went.
You were pretty
The
excited about
windows.
that.
Isn't that sad?
It's like
Is
when
the
you take
windows.
a kid on vacation,
Yeah.
right? You take him to
Yeah.
Disneyland, you spend a week, you do all these
Yeah.
amazing things, and he's like, I got this new toy. It's this little piece of shitty plastic that I can just play with.
Yeah.
It was totally
And he's
that.
playing with it next to the Grand Canyon. Yeah.
Yeah, Grand Canyon kid. For
That's
sure.
too funny.
You brought back Skittles. I was pretty
I
excited
brought
about
back a
that.
big bag of candy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Chinese Skittles.
Loaded the suitcase.
We went to Walmart. Walmart was crazy. It's almost what I expected. Like tons of things I couldn't understand, music I couldn't understand, noises, and it was just they do a lot of open raw food there. So fish is an aquarium for eating, and hanging ducks, hanging chicken, meat everywhere. And it was another shocking moment getting used to that. But on the last day we went back to that Walmart and I bought like $100 in candy, just Chinese candy. Brought it all back and distributed it. It was fun though. The Chinese actual candy they had most of it I didn't like. It was like zipped jelly type stuff, like little
like liquid
some, but jellies and squishy stuff. I didn't dig it too much. But so I bought a lot of candy you kind of recognize, but in pure Chinese, so it's cool. Yeah. So if you're an adventurous type, China will push all your buttons. It's like pure adventure. But if you want to go for luxury retreat, that's like more of an island thing, I think.
Yeah, China's not the place. I'd love to go one day, but I can't imagine. For me, I think I'd go crazy with all those people.
Oh my, do you want me to mention on the people?
Yeah.
Okay, so we drove for like 3 hours out of Shanghai, and it was just, we never left city, really. We drove over a long stretch of water. But we went to a handful of other factories while we were there, and we would drive for hours, and we would see high-rises of apartments. And they were, I'll show you a picture. It's pretty awesome. But I mean, I don't know how many a high-rise holds or how many they put into a room, but these high-rises were just as far as I could see both ways. And can you imagine the people over there? I don't know how they make it all work. It was crazy. I've been to LA, New York, nothing.
Yeah, I don't even think it compares. Like when people think, you sit and look at the population density of someplace like China or over there in Asia and things like that, and we don't have anything that compares to it here in the U.S.
No.
Well, you also have to imagine the regulations and the rules for living are a lot different. So
yeah.
Oh, totally.
A lot like less stringent.
There's just less of them.
Yeah.
Less rules.
The people in China too are so cool and calm, and they don't recognize depression over there, which is interesting. And everyone just wants a simple life and to do their thing. And it was.
What do you mean they don't recognize depression?
It's not a clinical thing there. There's no such thing. Like depression's like, what? You're unhappy? Well, get a different job. I don't know, but William was saying they don't recognize it. They don't treat it. They don't recognize it. It's a big thing here, but maybe it's the industry. I don't know.
That's really interesting.
It is.
Yeah, that kind of amazes me. It almost makes me want to almost adopt that theory here.
That would be nice.
Instead of, I don't know, I think in some cases you'd almost look at it like, well, some people use the word depression as a crutch instead of using it as a motivation to make that change. That's amazing. You get that many people in one space and they don't acknowledge something like that.
I'm sorry. I was looking down at there's like one picture I took, and it would be like that for like an hour.
Just everywhere.
Everywhere. It was like, that was another shocking thing. It was.
And are those like apartment buildings?
Yeah, and you know what's weird? You would expect, like, if you looked at this in the U.S., you'd expect that to be really lit up, right? It was not lit up. It was like most of them were dark, and there would be random little LEDs. So at night, it's not like some giant glaring cityscape. It was really dark and mellow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
There's something beautiful about it.
I saw the picture of the flat toilet. That we're not used to that, the hole.
Yeah.
That they don't share like soap. They believe soap's unsanitary.
Who do you share soap with?
Like in a public bathroom.
Oh.
Soap's unsanitary. Toilet seats are unsanitary. And it came down to it. I used the hole while I was there. So I'm kind of glad
like you were in some sort of standoff.
So straight up, our hotel had a normal toilet, and I told everyone, I'm like, if I can, I'm not going to use, the hole. And then one day it happened, and I was like, I don't have a choice. So I prepped and went and did my thing.
But at least you had that experience.
Is that TMI?
Though.
Sorry.
That's definitely
not keeping it classy. But
yeah,
it was actually way better than I thought. So.
Wow. The hole usually is.
Whoa,
too easy.
Rabbit hole.
Set him up for that one.
Yeah.
So, because this is, I told you guys a little bit about what the podcast is, and Shane's been on the podcast before, but because it is the Energies Love podcast, we have to talk somewhat about deep spiritual, thought-provoking shit that's out there.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
So if you guys have had anything, I always like when we have something that talks about floating or highlights floating, like if you've had some crazy experience in the tank, let me hear about it. And if you haven't, that's totally cool too, because it's something that kind of takes practice, and
it does.
You have to get to that space.
Everyone wants it on their first float too.
Mm-hmm.
I was of that mindset. I thought that my first time was just going to blow the doors open.
Everyone does.
Just didn't. It was very relaxing. It got rid of a lot of my anxiety from my tests and homework and things, but it just didn't. It didn't do that for me, and I guess I'm still looking for that. So it's a reason to keep floating, right?
Yeah, dude. Seriously, the practice is when it the crazier things. Not that crazy is going to happen, but if you're looking to kind of get out of the body a little, it takes some practice.
It's just like anything else, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
dude, we got to get this tank going.
yeah, and the crazy thing is, as I talk to so many people about it throughout the day, and I kind of tell them, don't have any expectations, don't do this, and then I do it. So
Yeah.
it's something I need to work on.
Human nature, man.
Yeah. So get back to me.
Floated
on that
yet?
No. See, but for me, it's kind of fun because I'm on the other side. I haven't experienced the float, but I've heard so many stories from people that all the lives that have been changed and everything. So I'm impacted in a different way. So, I mean, obviously I'm going to it's something that I want to do because I believe in meditation. I believe in getting back to center. And for me, having a little bit of anxiety, going through depression issues and just the ups and downs and peaks and valleys of life, like it's right on my radar of a need to do.
You're gonna love it.
But I'm on.
You like meditating, right?
Yeah, love it.
So if that's
hard to do sometimes because I'm so cerebral, and sometimes I just want to tell my mind to fuck off, but I can't do that.
Yeah.
I do. It just doesn't work that way.
So do you practice meditation?
As much as I can. Yeah.
How long have you been doing that?
I'd say on and off, probably a good 10 years. When I was 30, I shouldn't be here anymore. I was sick for a year and didn't know it. And it got to the point to where it was just straight to the hospital. And so I knew I had to make a complete lifestyle change. And that was kind of going inner instead of worrying about the superficial and the outer. So I think I made that point then to really kind of dive in.
What did that look like? So tell me, like, if you say you're going to make that choice, that conscious decision to where I need to start focusing on what matters, what's important, and I'm going to go inside for that.
That's a good question. It was the easiest yet scariest thing I've ever done. My daughter was still a little bit young, so it was understanding with her and kind of walking her through the process. She watched me progressively get sicker and sicker and sicker, and not really acknowledging that, not really doing anything about it, just more being stubborn. When I found out that I was really at a crossroads, either make a change or you're just not going to be around, and now it's surgery time. It was kind of really finding the value I had to go through in everything in my life. It was, does this bring value? If it doesn't bring value, then it's got to be gone. From friendships to even, and it sounds bad, but even parts of my family.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't allow them in my space. I couldn't have them around me, because some it was guilt. Some I kept in my life, but it was that constant, I'm so sorry your life is going bad, and everything that comes out of your mouth is just this negative and poor me, and I can't live this lifestyle anymore. I can't be my own success story for me with this toxic energy around me. So it was a daily awareness. I mean, I had to monitor what I was eating. I had to monitor what I was drinking, cigarettes, everything, you name it. I had to be very structured in everything. I mean, I'm not good at following a regimen, but I had to acknowledge if I didn't feel well, I had to allow myself to not feel well so I could allow myself to get healthy. I couldn't avoid it anymore. It was probably that's where I was. I just couldn't avoid.
Were you diagnosed with something specific, or was?
Yeah, I've got, and it's a disease. What's crazy is it's slowly becoming more and more common. I've got diverticulitis, and that's a problem with the colon. So things that are hard to digest get caught in little pockets inside of your colon. And the moment they get caught, it's just a guarantee that they're going to start to get infected. I was walking around for just over a year with 4 feet of my colon infected. So on a daily basis, I was waking up just extremely tired because throughout the night, my body's fighting all this infection. And at that moment, I was kind of dealing with my own anxiety and depression with drinking. I mean, it was my way of being copacetic. And so I had convinced myself my belly was getting bigger because I was drinking more beer and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Every excuse I could think of.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I was at work. I looked at a coworker and I said, okay, I'm not feeling well. And I fell over and I passed out and I was done. They rushed me to the hospital. That's when I found out I had 4 feet that were infected and I had kidney stones at the same time. So they brought in a specialist from Harvard because they call it an old person's disease. And what it is it's lack of fiber in the American diet. So basically everything we eat is corn.
Yeah. And
so we just don't get the fiber quantity that we need to balance the body out. And because I was drinking so much and really not eating, I was just, in essence, just killing myself. So I had to go in. They had to do, I had about 2 to 3 months throughout the time, I had 17 CT scans. So way too much radiation through my body. just trying to figure out what the hell was wrong with me, why I was so young and why I was so sick and susceptible and everything else. And so I'd say about 6-7 months in, I finally had the surgery. And that's really when, for me, it completely got real. You know, they put you in the surgery prep and they're warming your body. And it was just like, I can't go back. So if I'm going to live anymore, I have to not only like change my physical lifestyle, but I have to change my spiritual lifestyle.
Were you spiritual at that point? Like, did you have some understanding of, because I mean, you describe like the toxic people that are in your life and that negative energy that they carry. Yeah. And we all know somebody that you can't talk to them without them talking about how shitty their life is.
Yeah.
And,
Oh yeah.
you know,
So hard.
Yeah. Did you have some understanding of that effect or the effect that that had on you? Or was it more or less just like, I don't really, I need to change something?
Yeah, that's kind of it's a big one for me to answer.
We only like small ones. So.
Yeah, I love it. Yes, I was always spiritual just because of the way that I vested in people. I think what made me attracted just to life in general, from even my first memories, were the energy that people had. Mm-hmm. Like, regardless of being negative, regardless of being positive, I loved people's energy. I realized, and where that awareness came from, was I was taking too much in. So I never put up a guard. There was never a filter. So regardless if you were a toxic person, I was still allowing you to be in my space based on the fascination that I had with just humanity in general. Mm-hmm. And that's where I had to cut my spiritual line. If we say spiritual as far as like a God-fearing believer, I mean, I was raised that way. And so there were some principles that hangover, if you will, that have carried over. So I've always been a bit more, I think, more open with a good side and a bad side, if you will. But as far as spirituality, as being in tune with nature and being more in tune with myself, that was the first time that I ever gave myself the ability to know me, to get to know me. I was so busy being entertained by everybody else. It was just easy to ignore me. And so that's probably where I said it was the hardest thing. You know, it's easy, but incredibly hard at the same time. Because I had to forget everything I knew. I had to forget my process and start over. So it was like a free chance to have that check that everybody wants, but a horrible way to get that opportunity.
So I'm a big fan of really diagnosing people.
Awesome.
Oh, geez.
This is awesome.
Like instantaneously, I'll just judge people.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, it's been
love this.
Please.
I'll take some moonshine now.
So I listened to you, right? All the things that you're talking about. And also earlier where you talked about how you like to take a lot of people's problems on or help people in the process of solving or fixing or helping them understand whatever it is that they're dealing with. And in a certain aspect, you take that on, right?
Yeah.
Kind of as your own. And so this is my like super hippie spiritual understanding of you and your life and your experiences and what led to your issues physically. Because I believe that all of the, and I'll get flack for this, I suppose, but I believe that all physical elements stem from energy. And the only reason I believe that is because I think that energy is everything. So it makes sense in my mind that, do you know what I mean? If we get sick in some way, shape, or form, it has some condition or connection to energy in some way, shape, or form. But I think about issues with your colon.
Yeah.
Diverticulitis.
Yeah, diverticulitis.
So that's going to be in the area of your body with your root and your sacral chakra. Those two chakras, they have a lot to do with, like, first off, your place in life.
Okay.
Like where you're at, your basis for kind of, I'm going to do a terrible job of explaining it, but it's kind of how you define who you are as a person. And then they have a whole bunch of other things that they're correlated with. So I look at you, I think about somebody that moves through their life, helping other people, and surely hopefully I got myself into a corner now. I'm not gonna, hopefully you're not going to get offended anyway.
Good luck.
You're nailing it.
But by taking other people's problems and helping them, I'm doing like quotation marks, helping them. Really, it's a way of distancing yourself from your own problems. So you're not looking at anything that you have to deal with.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically, if we're looking at areas of your root and your sacral and those type of things.
Yeah.
Like who you are as a person. And that had to have been challenged or questioned at a very early age to make you run and distance yourself from it so much. And then on top of that, because you talk about you like the energy of people, you like being around people, whether they're good or bad, toxic, positive, negative. You just like being in that space of helping people. And that's a very admirable thing. That's a good thing. That's a good quality to have. So I also think that you're a natural empath. So somebody that's an empath has the ability to register and sense and tap in and connect with energy that exists, especially when it comes to people. So they can just kind of walk into a room, and maybe it's a crowded room or something, and they can see that person over in the corner who is not obviously standing there, looking miserable or sad, but can connect and resonate and understand that there's something wrong with that person in some way, shape, or form. So you have a natural ability to do that. And then we take that over your lifetime, or do you know what I mean, all the way up until like your 30s, when you're continually doing that and avoiding, like you said, I'm not really looking at myself and what I need to do to be healthy and take care of myself. Yeah. So it makes sense to me that that's how it's going to kind of manifest in a physical way.
Well, you're right on.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Man, you're a good listener too.
And that's, if I could just say something about the derivative of energy and being sick. My doctor, the first surgeon that I had, the first doctor before I got passed on to another one, but the first one that took my case, she brought that up as far as you're carrying your stress all right here. Yeah. And she was so technical. That was the last thing that I thought she was going to be talking about, was spirituality and kind of where I was, the place in my life. And so even the moment I allowed myself to deal with being sick was when I felt the pain of being sick. Because I knew, because that was the thing. I love that you brought that up, because being empathic, that sounds awkward for me to say that of myself.
It's like stupid.
It's like a crown that I just put on. Hey, look at me. And
you definitely walk higher than everybody else.
Yeah. Well, and I do. That's why I'm here at Zen. And the whole
humble God.
Yeah.
It did become easier too. Did you just call me humble God? That was
the God of being humble.
No, that hurts a little bit. I'm going to be in the fetal position in the corner crying in just a second. I would beat myself up for not paying attention to me late at night, but I wouldn't allow myself to deal with my own consequences. So it was like that, what is it, Atlas that kept pushing the ball up the hill? It felt like that. So even regardless of all the joy that I got just out of people, I don't know if I ever allowed myself to be thoroughly joyful, because I wasn't acknowledging me. Yeah. And that's what being sick, I mean, I hated it then. I look at it as a blessing. So now,
well, it is it is a blessing in a sense, because it brings to attention what needs to be addressed. And I mean, for me, I think that energy will always find a way. One of the things that I talk to people about, meditation, right? Huge in floating, huge just in life. I think it's a practice that everybody should be practicing. And people think, well, I don't know how to meditate, or I've tried and I can't do it. I get there for 2 minutes and then I can't shut my brain off. And I think our bodies, whether you think about your physical body or your higher consciousness, your spiritual body, or whatever the case may be, there's times where it takes over the reins and forces you into a state of meditation. And it's not like a physical thing where you're suddenly forced to sit on a pillow underneath a tree. And, you know what I mean? But the easiest thing to think about is when you're driving, and everybody's had that experience where they're driving somewhere and they don't remember how the hell they got home.
You're just in your driveway.
Yeah, they completely, zone out and space out, and they don't remember taking the exit or stopping at the stop sign, and suddenly they're home and like, oh, everybody kind of has that initial like, well, that's kind of freaky. Yeah. But our physical body, like the part of our body that has to drive, can do that in its sleep. It does that so much, right? But our higher consciousness, our spiritual aspect of who we are, seizes that opportunity to take your brain into a different wavelength. Because in meditation, just like in floating, you go into that theta brainwave, in that state where your brain kind of disconnects, and it's that happy dream state. Your higher consciousness takes your brain into that wavelength to where everything's kind of hazy and foggy. But that's the space that you a lot of times will seek and find in meditation, that space where your brain can quiet, and you kind of disconnect and go there. So I think our bodies, our higher consciousness takes over when it needs to and forces ourselves into it. So energy always finds a way to get what it needs and take care of you and what you need.
Does that ever work in a way too? Like, what if your body senses that you don't know what you're doing? Like, I think of kind of what I've been through, and I got hit with anxiety and panic, and I didn't have a choice. I had to make different decisions, or it was over. And I wonder, does the body ever play out that way?
I mean, are you talking? Because I remember you sharing and talking about when you went to California and that whole experience and everything that you kind of went through.
It just broke me.
Yeah, and you kind of got to that panic, anxiety, not panic, like a panic attack kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
I thought I was insane.
Yeah.
And I had to leave LA.
See, I think there's so many like crazy hippie spiritual ways to look at that,
I want to know some.
where it's like your body, because our higher consciousness, right? If we think about us as light beings, aliens, whatever the fuck we want to call them, I just think of us as energy. But we can see things differently because we have access to the different wavelengths or dimensions or however crazy off the beaten path you want to go. But we see things differently. So you, Shane, higher consciousness Shane, can see down the road and realize that if he continues on this path, then bad shit's going to happen. So I'm going to force and cause physical things to happen in the present and in the moment to stop him. So then that way he takes the other path that he needs to take. And maybe it doesn't work that way. Like for me, I love to just go into that space of wondering and questioning.
Yeah.
I always think that there's 1,001 different reasons and explanations.
It felt like my body made the decision. This is enough. The brain's had enough. Let's go this way.
And it forces you to that state, right? Into a panic attack, into that heightened state of anxiety where everything, I mean, there's real physical reaction. Like you could hook yourself up to an EKG and all these different monitors and all these kind of stuff.
Blood pressure.
Yeah. And it's going to jack everything up.
Yeah.
But I think at the core of it, it stems from, it's always energy for me. I always go back to energy. I think that's the core of it. And I think that a lot of times it will kind of hijack your body in a sense, like it does in that example I gave where it takes you into that theta brainwave even when you're not aware of it.
Does that apply to, like he had anxiety and panic attacks because of his situation, but what about when something happens and you develop anxiety or panic from that? Like
PTSD?
Yeah, or like I remember when I developed my panic attacks and anxiety, which is why I was looking for floating. Additionally, it was pretty significant deaths in my family.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wonder if it's the same situation, for his body reacting and telling him to go down this path. I just wonder if it's the same for, like in my situation where it was, this happened.
You did it.
They're gone forever. Here are these panic attacks. Enjoy.
Did it want you to take better care
You know what I mean?
or something?
I don't know. I still haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
The body's smart. The reptilian.
It is smart.
Since the beginning of time, it knows what
I think
do.
it's smart, but I think it's also stupid.
It's so stupid.
No, but it's very, very much based in this place of dumb shit.
Isn't it crazy that it can take care of you? Like, this is a bad example, but like you drink too much, but your body takes care of the rest.
Mm-hmm.
You're breathing, you're pumping
It can
blood.
take care of you if you have the right amount of oxygen, the right temperature.
True.
But I love that thought that you brought up. Almost like without knowing it, we're already taking care of ourselves. Like you can be as destructive to yourself as possible, but there's still something inside of you that wants you to succeed.
Yeah.
There's still that will or energy.
Mm-hmm.
That's fascinating to look at it that way. I mean, I love hearing that your body said enough is enough, regardless of your mental state, regardless of where you were. Shit's going to hit the fan, and this is why.
My mind was convinced that I was going to, quotes, make it. But my body finally trumped and said, "No, you're not. We're going to go this way." And that's the only read I've put on it. But it felt like I broke my energy out there. I don't know how to read into that, but
It's almost like when you get headaches and you just take medication for it and it's supposed to be gone, but I think your body's telling you something.
yeah.
That pain is telling you something in your body.
Well, I want to ask you. So that was a while ago.
Long time ago, yeah.
So now on this journey, do
It
you
was
feel
last week when he got back from China.
That's what it was?
He actually called me from the
Yeah,
hotel
It was
room.
a quick recovery.
You ate dog, and it was all downhill from there.
Another story.
Yeah, that's horrible. Anyway, so through this journey, do you feel you've gotten that energy back?
Oh, yeah.
Totally fascinated by this.
100%, 1,000% better. It was so great. I'm so glad something took control and made it all work out the way. I wouldn't have found therapy. I wouldn't have found floating. I wouldn't have found different ways to be in relationships. I wouldn't have found everything in my life wouldn't be this way if something wouldn't have stopped LA.
Well, it's really easy to look at it, like with hindsight, like we talked about in the beginning.
Yeah.
You can go back and look. It's really easy to look at, to imagine yourself had you not. Like to imagine yourself going down that rabbit hole of what LA was leading to and all the different things that you were experiencing and going through. And to fast forward that train of thought or that track of your life to now and who knows? Who knows where you would be? But
that's true. It
Wouldn't
could
be
have
as good
happened.
as
It
this.
could have happened 100 ways,
Mm-hmm.
and it might have always have happened. But yeah, it's an interesting way to think about it.
I love that. What a good message. I mean, just think about it too, because I mean, for me, so you brought up the fact that like I will single out that person in the room that's just a little off, and it's not like I love being the one that helps.
There's an aspect of you that does like that, though.
Well, I do. So it is. Yeah.
There's
It
an
is.
aspect of you that, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but men do that a lot. And I think the reason men do that, so men like being the knight in shining armor. Men like being the one that rescues and saves and protects people.
Yeah.
And part of it is biological and genetic because of the way that we've evolved over time, and we were bigger, stronger, faster. So we were the ones that had to take care of in some way, shape, or form by feeding people, by going out and hunting and protecting, simply because we were bigger. But then we don't need to do that shit anymore. But there's an aspect of it that's still ingrained in us. So
totally innate.
We like that. But then I think also because men are so disassociated and disconnected with their emotion that they still use that to, because even at the core of, I think self-esteem is a big, huge thing. And especially men suffer from low self-esteem, even though we pretend that we don't. And we try to make it seem like we don't.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we use that outlet of, look, I'm helping somebody, I'm fixing somebody's problem, I'm saving or rescuing somebody, or I have a solution or an answer, and they look up to me in some way, shape, or form. I'm using that to feed my or help in regards to my lack of self-esteem.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Yeah, because you're right. There is a part of me where it's joyous.
Mhm.
There's some gratification.
And there's
there.
nothing wrong with it. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with helping people.
Yeah,
That's a super wonderful thing.
It's how I'm built.
Mhm.
And for a long time, when I mentioned the book and everything, for a long time, I had to go through that self-doubt of like, I don't want to be this way anymore. Like I would love, and it sounds bad, but there's been mornings where I woke up and I'm like, I don't want to give a crap about people. Like I wish I could just put my blinders on and go throughout the day.
Yeah.
I just can't. I mean, it seems mentally and physically impossible. So.
That's me.
You just put your blinders on and don't give a shit.
Yeah, Mason's a honey badger.
No.
Maybe that's why we get along then.
I care too much about everybody.
So everybody here, if I'm correct, from the way that we're all talking, myself included, have suffered from anxiety or depression in small way, shape, or form throughout their life, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to give you guys my big spiel on mental illness.
Okay.
Because anxiety and depression form a mental illness, right? Big, huge stigma attached to mental illness. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to address it. Nobody wants to admit to it.
Yeah.
But I think that we have to change not just the conversation regarding mental illness. I think, Shane, we you talked about this back when you came on the podcast, and I think that you do a good job of openly discussing what you went through and experienced, which helps people. But I think that we have to do away with even that concept or idea that's mental illness. I think that's just life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that
Different
one.
shades of life.
Yeah. Everybody falls on that spectrum of life, and we've experienced this or we've experienced that. And because we experienced this or that, like Mason, you talked about losing people that you loved, and that kind of sent you into a tailspin, right? So that's an experience that you went through. Therefore, that's the cause and effect, right? The cause is this experience and this thing, and here's the effect. And we've labeled it a negative thing, and we've hid it, and we don't want to talk about it. But if we were just to look at it as that, this is just simply life. When these things happen, sometimes this is what happens. And then that way we can cope and deal and manage in such a better way to where we accept the fact that everybody, if we want to label it, suffers from some form of mental illness in one way, shape, or form.
Spot on.
Yeah.
Well, I love that because in essence, what you're saying is cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
So in an intimate situation like we're having right now, it seems like it's appropriate and it's okay to talk about depression and mental illness. But as the mass in a whole, I mean, you're right. I wonder where that division is then, because it does need to be spoken and it does need to be dealt with.
Well, it's such an asinine thing because, from my perspective and the way that I look at it, I honestly, truly feel that there's no wrong or right? There's not a good or a bad thing about it. All the way from a mild depression where you feel a little bummed out once or twice a month to the crazy schizophrenic that sees and hears and can't really sustain life anymore and is homeless. I don't think there's any difference. It's just varying shades of the same color.
Yeah.
And so it's frustrating that we somehow label that crazy guy any different than me because, I've gone through big bouts of depression and anxiety and different things throughout my life that I've had to cope and manage and deal. And we have terrible coping mechanisms.
Yeah, we do.
You talked about alcohol. I did the same thing, right? I mean, there's so many different ways that people choose to cope and deal with these experiences, and 90% of them are unhealthy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I also think the way that we treat it is wrong. You know, I think my experience was made a lot worse just because, well, maybe not worse because of, but it didn't help that I didn't take, because when everything happened, I was just basically thrown pills at.
Mm-hmm.
And I refused. I refused. You
Quick
know,
fix.
I wasn't going to take them. So it probably made it worse that I didn't immediately, but I think in the long run, it was better that I didn't.
Yeah.
So I think that the fact that happens is probably not the best way to deal with.
Well, it's that whole thing where we're completely overprescribed in this country.
I can't stand
Yeah.
it. That's the
every
first
damn thing.
go-to. I can't stand that. And then another thing that really bothers me, touch of a tangent, how they prescribe pain pills, and we're talking like the same thing as heroin, the opioids. And I feel like they need to run an ad campaign that shows doctors giving heroin out.
Yeah.
That they're doling out heroin and it's all good, but it's not all good. Why would you start at that? There's so many painkillers that don't get you high. Start on those. It kills me, that one specifically.
Well, you can't really blame the people because, I mean, it's a doctor with a tie. And
I think it goes deeper than that, though. You can't blame society, right? Because we look at the way that we're taught, the way that we're brought up, the way that we're raised. We look at what's going on around us, and that's how we base kind of reality for us and the experiences that we have. And, you know, over the past 150 years, 200 years, however we want it, things have been continually built up that way where, do you know what I mean? Men never talk about emotions, so we shove that shit down and we don't ever talk about it.
And then it explodes.
And then it explodes. It doesn't ever go anywhere. And it manifests itself in different physical ways like diverticulitis or high blood pressure.
Broken homes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Think how many of these guys with issues goes back to just these childhood moments about being tough, no emotion.
Yeah.
And they learn how to bottle. They learn how to like cope. They learn how to drink. They learn how to get dysfunctional. From a very simple thing, an emotion. It's funny, like I've been thinking about this a lot lately. It's courageous to feel and to, especially as a male, to go through it in front of people. Like, I'm sad, I'm happy, I cried, I didn't cry, whatever. I think what makes someone tough is the decisions they make after feeling. Like sometimes there's hard decisions that have to be made, but I think it's beautiful when people go through it openly and then make a tough decision. Because
I like that.
I wish I had a better example, but the toughness isn't in not feeling that sadness.
Can you think of one where
let me think of one. I had one just the other day because that got this going. But I remember thinking, like, what would I tell my son what tough is? Because he's going to fall and get hurt. And I remember thinking, like, if he cries, he should cry. He's feeling that.
Totally.
And then so I want to tell him at the end of that, it's like, if you decide to get back up and play ball, you know, that's a tough decision because you just got hurt. So I'm more impressed with the decision you make after. Go through whatever you need to go through, man. Feel that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think especially, you know, some of the stuff I experienced in my family is just you kind of don't do the emotion thing. So
No.
and a lot's changed in years and years. But when I was a kid, there was still the tough thing.
My family's very old school.
Yeah, be tough, Mason.
Yeah.
And that shit just doesn't work.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
You want to
doesn't.
create addicts. It works like a charm.
It does. Like if you want to bury stuff, if you want to continually perpetuate that same cycle,
Be
if you don't want to
so
talk
dysfunctional.
about anything, you want to have terrible relationships, and you want to die like cold and bitter and sad by yourself. It works great.
So familiar.
Did you just write my book for me?
Seriously.
Yeah, that was on the back of my prescription bottle right there.
Yeah.
I was raised by my grandparents. So, you know, World War II, survivability. I did this for you. Shut the hell up. Rub some dirt on it.
Yeah.
You know, oh, you're 6 and the lawnmower weighs 3 times as much as you do. Well, go mow the lawn. Suck it up, cowboy. So,
And there was an aspect, I think, if we look at like the course of society, right? You know, the past 100 years in America and what we've had to go through and experience, the Great Depression,
they've
the
endured.
wars.
Yeah.
You've had to be that way in order to survive.
yeah.
But we're not at that place now. We probably won't. You know, who knows? We might go back to a place or a state like that. But we're not at that place anymore. And I think you see it shifting and changing a lot. I think that you see kids nowadays way different, right? And it's not necessarily because they're being brought up or raised differently, but simply because the society's changing as a whole. So
Yeah.
I'm born and I step out. Well, I didn't step out, but I'm born and I exist in this realm. I take in everything around me, and that's how I kind of base my reality. And kids today, same thing. They come out, they take a look around, and that's how they base the reality. And things are changing. But Shane, you've got kids, right?
Yeah, one and one due April right here soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a little boy?
Yeah, a little boy, 1.5.
So I've got a 10-year-old boy, and it's super hard. Like, it's super hard not to talk to him like my dad talked to me.
Shit, dude.
Ooh.
Do you know what I mean? It's really hard not to force him into that space of, I don't have an issue if he cries or if he, do you know what I mean? Like if he gets emotional about something, but like sometimes he cries too long.
Yeah. And
Does that make sense?
And how do you know it's too long in your head?
Well, the fact is it's never too long. Like if he wants to sit and cry and cry and cry and cry and whine and cry, that's okay. He should be able to express that emotion, right?
Uh-huh.
But me as a father, I'm like, I'm going to love him. I'm going to support him. I'm going to do what he can. But then he gets to that point where I'm like, dude, fuck, shut up. Like, you need to stop being a wimp. Get up.
Yeah, this is reality.
Yeah, we got to do stuff. We got to, get off the ground, do whatever it is. We got to move on. So I battle in that space of, trying to allow him the processing of emotion and expressing, because I don't want him to bury it and shove it down like I had to.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
Man, it is hard. I'll take any tips you have. I think it's going to be really hard for me. Seriously.
Well, I've got 4 kids, and all my parents, like if I love all my kids, but I wish I had the opportunity to go back and raise them from the beginning now with the way that I look and view and see. And
Oh, yeah.
because I would do things so much differently.
Is your oldest 10?
No, oldest she'll be 18 in April. She's
Okay.
graduating this year.
Same age as mine.
Awesome.
Yeah. She'll be 18 in March. And I'm scared shitless,
Yeah.
to be completely honest. And I totally agree with you with the hindsight's always 20/20. Because right now, for me, what I'm going through is she's too connected. She's just overstimulated all the time. And so decompression or calming down or being in a state of, Zen, not to be cheesy,
Heyo.
but to be to be in that realm, she can't comprehend it. I mean, the best punishment that we can give her is taking her phone away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like devastating.
Ooh,
Absolutely
man. That's like
devastating.
drugs,
I'm
man.
telling you, if I
Yeah.
walk without my phone in my pocket, I feel like I'm missing a shoe.
See, I just
That's
I
so
do.
great.
I'll admit it. I do. I
don't
feel
get
like
that
I'm
at
missing
all.
a hand.
I don't get that at all. I mean, I remember in the 90s, I worked for my dad a little bit and he gave me a pager. And I was so upset that I got a pager because I was like, I don't know. I don't want you to know where the hell I am. Like,
Pagers are dope.
I don't want to be this connected. But now everything. She goes to the kitchen, phone's with her. Goes to the bathroom, phone's with her.
Yeah, my 10-year-old will come into the kitchen and get a drink of water or get a sandwich and set his phone on the counter. And I'm sitting there looking at that, and I feel like a terrible parent, right? I've allowed that shit to happen.
Totally.
I have facilitated that.
What
in
do
the
you
meantime,
do?
I'm on my phone looking at him,
Yeah.
looking at his phone.
Yeah,
That's great.
You're looking up tips
There's
on how to
another
take your
reality.
phone away.
I'm like, how do I parent this child?
Yep.
This is
Come
great.
on, Google.
But I also think, because I try to look at it from a different perspective, I think that, do you know what I mean? He's 10, and the world that he exists in now will never not have technology in it.
Yeah.
I've never had a phone. Like, I remember when the internet was a thing. I shouldn't say I never had a phone, but you know what I mean? I went through plenty of times in my life without cell phones, without the internet, without computers, without any of that shit.
I think
Yeah.
we're lucky that we did.
Yeah, I do
Hate
too.
to say it.
But that's us glorifying it.
Nope.
Yeah.
True.
Like you talk to old people and they talk about the good old days when they didn't
Yeah.
have shit.
The good old days when you had to go to a freaking library. No thanks.
Yeah, and they really missed that time of
They
sitting
had
down
straight
and
ups.
listening to the radio and tuning in at night, and that was
Yeah.
a big thing, right?
Yeah.
So everybody glorifies the past, thinking that it was better than it was now. But my boy's going to grow up, and he will never move through life without some form of technology that he's intricately connected to.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be even worse.
It is going to be worse, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's just we look at it and we have that tendency to be like, gosh, back in my day, we never, because I do that all the time.
Memories are always sweeter. In fact, sometimes now when I have real highs in my life, I go, look around and witness how great this is, but also witness that there is still reality in your life. It's not the perfect memory, so that as time goes on, I'm not going the perfect, things were perfect. Even on your highs, things aren't perfect.
Yeah.
But like sometimes if you're not aware of it, if you think back, you had the best memory. Everything, even this Nintendo, like the memory is better than turning it back on and playing that Nintendo.
That's
Yeah.
because when you're thinking about something or when you remember something, you remember remembering it.
Well, the power of nostalgia.
Yeah, and you just remember those high clips of it.
Yeah.
Or the low ones.
Yeah, or the low ones.
Like you got to remember too that even in the shittiest of moments, it wasn't that shitty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
think about the reverse of that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You're just pulling out the parts that really stick out.
But what do you do when the cell phone is the good old days when we actually had to hold something? Now it's in your eye.
Yeah, in your eye.
Now it's
Mason's
there.
in your
Mason's
brain.
good old days.
Now it's there. I
We
mean,
used to
you
have to
can't
hold our
escape
phones.
it.
So I think we have to be like I try to I think that I do need to limit the amount of time that my kids spend on their phones or watching TV or on the computer or something like that, because that's like the old school part of me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that we also have to embrace the fact that, you know, their entire life is spent that way. They've never not known what a cell phone is. They've never experienced life. Like you see toddlers now, even younger, like 1-2 years old kids picking up a tablet, and knowing completely what to do and manipulate and maneuver on that thing. And then you hand it to a 70-year-old person and they can't turn it on. They can't open up apps. They don't have no clue what to do.
My 1.5-year-old, he can click it, open it, swipe, go into his app. It's like, what the heck? How did this happen?
So I have like a crazy spiritual belief in regards to why that shit's happening.
Yeah.
So like, because the vibration of the planet is changing and shifting and continually rising, and we have a higher vibrational frequency now than we did even 20, 30, 40 years ago. That's why kids come out smarter. That's why kids have the higher ability to kind of handle that technology and function that way. And I also think that that's why kids today, it seems like more and more kids are being labeled or classified or diagnosed as ADHD or autistic or something like that.
Yeah.
Like everybody either has a kid or knows a kid or next door neighbor's kid who has been labeled or classified autistic. Oh, he's high functioning autistic, but he's autistic, right?
Asperger's.
Yeah.
That's weird.
All these different things. I don't think there's anything wrong with that kid first and foremost, but I think the reason that kid is like that is because they're functioning at that higher frequency of energy shit. And those kids typically are more in touch and in tune with different things. We can't understand or explain it. We're still trying to stick them in that same box of education and all the different things that aren't working. But it's because they're advanced in that space, because they're bringing in that new energy or new vibration or whatever. But
what affects the vibration? I mean, if it's changed over the last 40 years, what is it that's made it change, you think?
You know, there's a lot of different things. I think for me personally in my own space and the way that I think about it, I think that it's just simple evolution. I don't think that there's been a shift or a change or some course or, everybody's waking up now and there's a higher percentage of people on the planet that are more woke or whatever the case may be. I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think it's just the simple evolution of our planet, of energy, of the universe.
Okay.
And so, but I do think that it is a higher vibration. I think it is evolving. I think it's perpetually moving forward. But I think that's the purpose of energy. I think that's the purpose of the universe.
To grow and expand.
Yeah,
it's
that
interesting.
Perpetual evolution forward.
Yeah.
So
that fascinates me. And that's actually something that keeps me up at night and kind of keeps my conversations with just strangers going. Because there's a part of me that feels, and when you bring up like a higher wavelength, a higher amount of knowledge, it almost feels as if we're in the process of prepping for something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love that you use the word awakening. It feels like we're getting ready for a new state of consciousness, a new way of viewing life or humanity in general. Like, it just feels like right now the pot's being stirred, and it's just prepping and prepping and prepping, and people are getting ready for growth, like real growth, societal growth.
Think of how many times in the history of man it's probably felt like that, though.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's probably been multiple times over and over and over again where this wave of something felt like it was rising and we were moving towards something and civilization was progressing.
Love that.
It's happened, I think, time and time again. And if you look at it, I think it's just that nice, steady progression of evolution continually moving forward, which is what I think the universe is kind of all about.
Are you guys afraid to be the old guy with the iPad that can't work it? You guys are pretty close, right?
That damn kid, he's had his cell phone. It's not a cell phone. It's just a little, basically it's the equivalent of like an iPod or something. Right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
a touch screen. You can do stuff on it.
Can do a lot.
Yeah.
But he's like figured out how to download apps and call people. He'll call mom at work and like, what the hell? Because he didn't have service on it. It's not a cell phone, but I just love it. I think that
Wi-Fi. And, yeah.
And, but I think that's because he's of this generation now that exists who has always had this and always functioned with it and, will continue. And the neat thing is, kids like him or even, your son that, how old did you say he was?
1.5.
1.5.
Yeah.
What is he going to invent and create,
Right.
given the technology that he's existed with his whole life?
I mean, one day he's going to walk through the door and you're going to be like, what? What is this?
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing?
When I love that we're talking about this too, because I feel like a young father. I mean, 39 and almost, she's almost 18. And she's already using that, I'd almost say against me, that you don't understand. This is what I grew up in. So it's a real game changer for her. And so I love the fact that you brought up like your kid crying to a certain level where it's almost like your inner ego of what you were shown is like, enough, this has got to stop. That's the roadblock that I'm running into. I can't seem to mentally bridge that gap. Because to me, it's just a piece of technology that I survived without it. You know what I mean? It's like what we were talking about the other day. You know, back in the day, we rode our bikes to our friend's house to knock on the door to see if they were there. If they weren't there, we rode back. And now it's like 30 texts, and you're probably not going to go out with them because you talked about everything you would have talked about face to face.
Yeah.
Well,
I've got 3 teenage girls, right? And that's a big issue where they want to get on and they want to text and they want to message on Facebook back and forth, and they'll sit and have these entire asinine, stupid conversations.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like if I wanted to talk to a girl, right? So they're talking to boys on Facebook and messaging and all that kind of shit. If I wanted to talk to a girl, I had to call her up.
Yeah.
I had to risk talking to her father or to her mother.
Yeah.
Scary.
Right.
Yeah.
And those conversations were really short and really brief. And it wasn't until you kind of were in that space of having a relationship with somebody as a teenager where you'd have long phone conversations or something, or even going back further where you'd send notes or something like that.
Yeah.
Kids don't have to do any of that shit anymore.
No.
And they can communicate with complete strangers. So because Facebook works the way that it works, friends of a friend of a friend, next thing you know, they were having huge, long conversations about asinine, stupid things with the 17-year-old boy that lives, you know what I mean, in the next county over, and they've never met him in person, but now they're building a relationship.
Crazy.
That was MySpace for me.
Oh my God,
MySpace.
Oh my
It was
God.
in my top 8.
Wow. See, I love that. I use the word courting to my daughter, and obviously raised by my grandparents. So I say tenny runners, and I've got all these like old school, you know.
What?
Old, yeah, I know. I don't call them.
Oh, tennis
my
shoes?
Yeah,
Tennis
I'm wearing tenny runners.
Tenny runners.
She mocks me profusely for saying that. But I was like, I said, well, you don't even go through the courting process. How do you know you're dating somebody? I mean, how do you know, like, how do you grow and get there? And it just doesn't comprehend. I mean, it's like well, she brings up Snapchat. You know, there's streaks on Snapchat. So if you talk a certain amount of time, like, I don't know.
I have to talk once a day.
Yeah, talk once a day. And when she lost her phone, that was the big thing, is she lost her streaks. And these people they're more than friends, but they're technology friends.
Yeah.
For me, I don't see, and, you know, maybe that's just, you know, me using my own experiences. I don't see the value being as much or as weighted highly as that face-to-face, as that physical presence.
It's because we're going back to the old school where we're trying to make everything seem like it was always better. And we're reminiscing with the past. But the fact is, that's how they court nowadays. That's how they build relationships. That's how they connect.
Isn't that crazy?
What's weird to me is when you talk to someone totally virtual, they are different. Like, they can feel different to you or mean something different
Oh, totally.
than an in-person relationship.
Yeah.
Well, I love that we're having this conversation, because this just reminds me that I have to help my daughter be more successful, to grow into the young woman that I want her to do, I have to modify my behavior. So in essence, like, I have to cut this shit out.
Yeah.
Because
Basically,
she will never understand.
it.
you
Yeah.
have to get on Snapchat.
Hybrid.
That I won't do. She's begged me to do it. She said,
Get
Dad,
those
you'll be
streaks
hilarious with Snapchat. And I don't. There's just no
love
draw for it.
I'm totally sucked in. I'll admit it.
Yeah, but you're a young guy.
Yeah.
Like, you're 26.
Yeah.
So Shane, how old are you?
33.
33. So, I mean, I'm 35. So you're almost a generation, you know,
Yeah.
behind where I'm at, where we are to a
Yeah.
certain extent. So your experience, like, my guess, if you're 26,
I was born in 1990.
so you don't really remember
Still blows me away.
the world
By the-
without internet.
No, by the time I was old enough to realize, I had dial-up,
Yeah.
you know?
But see, at least you know what dial-up is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. We all
I
went
know
through
the slow speeds
good
of
old
dial-up.
days.
Yeah, we went through the AOL pains. Who the hell got on the phone? I was on the internet in the chat room. Yeah.
I got to cut this off real quick. I just had the biggest deja vu I've had in like a year. Do you have any readings into deja vu? It was like, I have done this.
Let's hear it.
No,
Is it
like
just this kind
you
of
guys were
experience?
talking in this conversation.
Really?
The door and the wall. I've done this. It was so weird.
Love that.
It, like,
That's one of my
alternate
It
favorite
actually made me
feelings.
like a little anxious at first, and I don't even know what it was, but it's gone. But what the hell was that?
So I'll give you my take on deja vu.
Yeah, seriously, I'd like your take.
So there's a feeling in that space of deja vu. Like, you tell somebody that they have deja vu, and they automatically can think about a time that they had deja vu, and they might not necessarily be able to remember the specifics of what was
deja vu-ish about that, but they remember the feeling associated with it. Like you just explained, you had this deja vu right now, and you can feel what that feels like. You know what that feeling was.
It's scary because you're breaking up time or you're doing something you've never done before.
So I think when those experiences happen, because for me, there is no time. There's no past or present. It's just all right now.
That blows my brain up.
It does.
I'd like more
it blows mine up. It's hard to grasp. But I think that in the space, so if we think about right now, the four of us sitting here and talking and our energy connected and, you know, in the space of this conversation and what we're doing right now, somewhere else in some other dimension, realm, space, time, wherever we want to think about it or call it, there's a possibility that our energy is connecting up at this exact same moment. And so when deja vu happens, it's like those two bubbles kind of brush up against each other and you get little glimpses. And the reason it looks familiar and it looks like, you know, that wall in this space and very much like this is because you're here. So you're interpreting that energy that's somewhere else. But in order to interpret it, it has to go through your physical senses that you have here. So you're sensing that this seems so familiar because it's our energy somewhere else doing this exact same thing or something very, very similar to this. Maybe we're sitting around a campfire talking, or maybe we're flying on fucking unicorn somewhere talking.
Sounds awesome.
But because it looks and feels familiar is because it's going through your physical body and the senses that you have. But I really think it's just those dimensions and that energy brushing up against each other.
I want to ask you something about that then. Because I've always heard when you bring up deja vu, what I've always heard was you're in the right place then. Then you're on the best path that you could be at this moment.
That's what I tell myself.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? And for me, there's always 1,001 different, I mean, more than 1,001. There's always tons of explanations and ways to look at things. And I think they're all right. So when I experience deja vu, that's what I kind of, it's a cool feeling. I like that feeling because there's an aspect of it that's kind of trippy and weird. And you're like, I don't know what to expect. But then at the same time, it feels good, almost like, do you know what I mean?
It's familiar.
Yeah, it feels familiar.
Like comforting.
So when it happens for me, I just remind myself, that's what I tell myself, I'm doing something right. I'm in the space of whatever I'm doing right now. Okay. Or even my energy somewhere else. Because you have to think about that too. Like those four guys that are sitting around a campfire on some far off planet, maybe they had that same deja vu experience and it seriously impacted them to alter and change the course of their energy in that space and time. And because it's all interconnected and spiral down the rabbit hole.
Dude, the thinking without time is so hard for me to do. I just saw that movie Arrival. You seen that? See it?
So good.
Yeah, I haven't seen
okay,
that
you saw it. It does the time stuff.
Okay.
And I start to get my head there, and it's crazy to think without time.
It is hard to think.
Our brains aren't built for it.
I think they are, though.
Really?
Yeah, because if you think
My
about
brain
the way
isn't.
that, well, you tell yourself that your brain isn't.
Millennial brain.
But the fact is, think about the way that your brain operates. Like, at what point does your brain turn on?
Okay.
Right? Your brain turns on in utero way before you have anything resembling a human form, shape, body, baby, infant, anything like that. Your brain suddenly turns on. And I think our brains are just these huge, massive machines that are simply for they're for this experience of life on this planet and the five senses that we have in processing information. So they're just a supercomputer designed to process information.
Okay.
And so our brain turns on first, I think, because we have this physical form that we have to take. But then eventually our heart starts beating. Not long after, right? But
yeah.
And maybe our hearts, I'm not a doctor or a scientist, so maybe our heart goes first and then our brain comes second. But I think our brain and our spinal cord and our nervous system develops initially. And then our heart turns on and starts pumping blood throughout. And I think our heart is what connects us to the higher stuff, to the energy, to the spiritual side of it.
Yeah.
Because that's where we process emotion and everything like that. But I think your brain, what did you say your brain wasn't?
I just if you tell yourself time is infinite, what is infinite?
Yeah.
Can you comprehend infinity? To me, that to me is like, my brain isn't built for that.
Yeah.
Everything's this moment.
Like, oh my God.
And maybe it's not. Maybe our brains aren't built to process that information. Like I have a knowingness that comes from my heart that time's infinite and the universe never ends. but it is hard for my brain to grasp that.
Yeah.
And maybe it is because our brains are designed to process the information in this experience right here. It's just that supercomputer that's digesting everything that we're surrounded by.
Right.
So are you looking at it like your soul is what's infinite, your energy, as opposed to your body? Because we all know on this mortal plane, this body will pass.
Yeah, I think it's just a meat bag.
Okay.
We're all meat bags.
Mhm.
So does that help you allow that, to allow that there is no future, there is no past, it's just now,
I think
knowing
so.
that your energy is forever?
Yeah, and when I think about my energy, I think that my energy is the same as your energy and vice versa and back and forth. And it's all the same energy that exists in the universe. And it's all just one big spinning ball of energy.
Okay.
And so we're all connected. We're all functioning off the same form of energy. And I speculate and go on these tangents in my own head. And sometimes we talk about them on the podcast, but it's like, what's the purpose of this experience then? And I think one of the things that I believe, or one of the thoughts that I have that I kind of resonate more towards, is this is just simply an experience to create more energy, just to perpetually move that evolution forward. It's just fuel for that train to keep going.
It's like a sticker on your luggage.
Mm-hmm. Because when we're here in this experience in our human form, we have 5 senses, right? And I think that's unique to this planet. We probably have that somewhere else, but sight, sound, taste, touch, smell, 5 senses unique to our human body. I think that's why we have these bodies. I think that's why we're here on this planet. But I think we created this experience as simply a way to process emotion, because emotion is the frequency of energy. So good and bad emotion creates massive amounts of energy. So love, huge amounts of energy, right? Everybody knows what love feels like, especially if you got a kid. That's a massive amount of energy you've never felt before.
That rush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then negative, so war, hate, crime, all these terrible things that exist, same thing. They just produce a massive amount of energy. We label it bad. We label love good, but I think it's all the same. And we're just here to perpetuate and move energy out into the universe by these emotional experiences that we have.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Absolutely fascinating.
It drives me nuts sometimes, though, because I get lost in it.
Well, I love it because it's that, well, it's kind of like what you were talking about, going through what happened to you in LA, what happened to me with being sick, and your experiences in Mason with his loss and everything. It is that belief in knowing that nothing is permanent, at least in this physical plane, and shit never will be that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where the trick is then, because where's the moment where the switch comes on and you allow yourself to live that way, to be that way? I mean, I think that seems to be the trick, right?
I think it's a practice. I don't think you know what I mean. I think even the people that we would look at in life, or even the people that may say that they've got that switch flipped to where they're living lives purely from joy, and they're no longer basing anything off of the space of pain and suffering and frustration, I think they're full of shit. I think
I was going to say, I'd love to do that.
Okay.
I think it's just a continual practice to stay in that space. And as you practice it, you get better and better and better, but undoubtedly you're going to fall out of that space. You're going to step wrong. You're going to, you know what I mean? You're going to have moments when you're not in that space of joy and happiness, but the more you practice it, the more you stay in there.
I feel like you need those moments.
It's great to feel like shit, because then it makes the good stuff feel.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like sometimes it's required.
I was talking with someone, like, we were talking about bad jobs, and I don't remember how we got there, but we were thinking, like, what's the benefit of a bad job? And you want to know what one huge benefit benefit of a horrible job is? Great weekends. Like, weekends were awesome when I had a shitty job.
Oh, yeah.
Now I have a good job, and weekends are kind of just the same.
You're waiting for Monday.
Yeah, if you got a shitty job, you're really looking to get like the time when you get to get off the clock. And
Isn't that awesome?
What does it say that my weekends are great?
It means you have a shitty job.
My weekends suck.
Yeah?
No, they're great.
Okay.
So is my job. So.
It's all different. I like both. Interesting.
This is our job right now. I'm literally working.
This is cool.
Right now.
Yeah, that's for me. That's the part I like. Like, you know, the podcast, granted, it's not like I'm making millions of dollars podcasting, but
not yet.
This is what I get to do and my contribution to things. And I love it. I mean, it's wonderful to go out and meet people and have conversations. And
yeah,
so it's a good thing.
Things are changed from this conversation too.
You think so?
Things are always changing.
Yeah.
So it's just a cool idea.
It is cool.
Great.
Well, guys, We could probably sit here for a lot longer.
We could.
Yeah.
Wow. Dangerously.
I had some
long.
trepidation.
I wonder how
beginning.
long you
It was-
could go, like on a record setter. 10 hours?
Yeah.
Can you imagine the 10th hour mark? It's
No.
just like,
Nobody's going to listen. I'm not going to
I'm
edit
already-
that episode.
I'm feeling scrambly already. Like I'm starting to scramble a little.
Yeah.
Weird.
Nah.
Is there anything you guys want to throw out? Because we've got listeners all over the place, all over the world.
Go float.
Go float.
I really believe in it. I do.
Yeah,
Hey, do you care if I do a self-pitch thing?
absolutely.
I am dead serious about taking a documentary to Netflix or Amazon. So here in the next couple weeks, I'm going to get a Kickstarter going. I've already done a lot of the content, but if anyone's interested and they want to see floating on Netflix or Amazon, I'm going to be doing that soon.
You got to go Netflix.
We're going to go there first.
Because Netflix is definitely bigger, and they're getting bigger.
Netflix can deny you too.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, well, you might get $1,000 and a year's worth of airtime on Netflix. So that's why we have to say and Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
It'll be
we'll go
streaming.
Netflix first for sure.
So a documentary on floating.
Yeah, this video guy I know, he's awesome, and he's done so many great shorter things and low budget things. He wants this to be his breakout.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I've got the story and the context and the floating, so that we really want to go big. But it's going to take some money. So if you're interested.
And then if they are interested, where are they going to follow or keep up or find that info when it comes out?
Great. It'll be on Kickstarter, I think on the 16th of February. But the float tank cure should have a link too.
Okay.
So we'll see. It might not fund. If it doesn't fund, I don't care. But if it does, I mean, I don't want to do it without fun. Of course,
For
I don't
sure.
want it a low budget film. I want it to be done right.
A
So,
legitimate, good documentary
Yeah.
highlighting everything.
yeah, and it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort. And yeah.
I think that's a good landing point. So as of right now, if they want to contact thefloattankcure.com,
Yeah,
and
sure.
someone will get out to them regardless
Yeah.
until at least the campaign goes live.
Yeah, I was looking at Netflix and Amazon. That's what me and my wife use. She said, "Why isn't floating here? It should be here." And there's already the documentary Float Nation. It went YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I can do a more personal take on the whole thing. Anyway,
What do you think about any good documentary? Do you know what I mean? And it's not just information, but it does have to have that.
I want to capture people that haven't even floated beginning to end.
Yeah.
So it's going to take. It's a passion project. We'll see.
Good deal.
If it doesn't fund, that's okay too.
Well,
Whatever.
excellent. Thank you, guys.
Cool. Thanks for
Thanks,
having
man.
me.
This was
you.
awesome.
Yeah, it was
Appreciate
great.
it.
Yeah.
And everybody gets to go out and have a wonderful, beautiful day and float now.
Yeah.
I love it. Go float.
Look around and witness how great this is, but also witness that there is still reality in your life. It's not the perfect memory.
Time is infinite. What is infinite? Can you comprehend infinity?
I can't be my own success story for me with this toxic energy around me.
Go float.